Good morning to all. On behalf of the Department of Commerce and Management, Bhakta Kavi Narsinh Mehta University, Junagadh, and you all are heartily welcome to this university. And from now onwards, you will be a part of this family. And you all have to raise the name of this university like others do. The Department of Commerce and Management has organized Adept Talk Series 3. Today, I warmly welcome Honorable and enthusiastic Vice-Chancellor, Professor Dr. Chetan Trivedi, sir, and I also welcome Executive Council members, principals, professors, research scholars, and my faculty members. I also welcome who are watching through YouTube, Facebook also. I also warmly welcome today's series expert, Adept Talk, eminent expert Dr. Kamlesh, Vala. Adept Talk is designed to improve the knowledge in the field of commerce and management. 21st century is the century of knowledge, and aim the department is to give quality education to our valuable assets, to our students. Kindly join with us a journey of the knowledge. Let's share the knowledge and build new India. My friends, about expert Dr. Kamlesh Vala ji. Kamlesh Vala is an assistant professor in the Department of Accounting and Financial Management, Faculty of Commerce, the Maharaja Sayajirao University of Baroda. He is an eminent and excellent faculty and well known for his teaching and work dedication. Dr. Kamlesh Vala has a very brilliant command on activity-based costing, which is very useful for determining the cost of the product or service. He has done his research work around it and completed his PhD on activity-based costing, ABC, an effective tool for the management, a study of the selected service sector organization. He has also written various books, research papers on the accounting and finance field. He is in charge of the various committees and cells, and he is also dean of the students too. And he is among one of the most famous teachers in the faculty of the commerce. Honorable Vice-Chancellor of Dr. Chetan Trivedi sir has inspired us to start these types of series under his efficient guidance. I feel happy to inform you that Bhakta Kavi Narsinh Mehta University may be the first university who started this series for the commerce, management, finance, banking, marketing, accounting, and general management topics. Sir is rightly to talk about this today's talk, that is the activity-based costing. It is a very good topic regarding our finance and accounting fields. Activity-based provides more accurate methods for the product service costing, leading to very accurate pricing decisions. It increases the understanding of the overhead and cost driver also. The makes costly non-value adding activities more visible, allowing the manager to reduce the eliminated time also. Now I welcome Dr. Kamlesh Vala sir, today's eminent expert, to deliver his expert speech topic regarding the activity-based costing. Sir, please. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Hello, can you hear me?
Okay, sir. Now you are audible. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Bhavsinh, Dodia, sir, for generous introduction. I am humbled, I am mobilized and feel honored. And I take this opportunity to thank Honorable Vice-Chancellor in his absentia and Petron Professor Chetan Trivedi, sir, Head of the Department of Commerce and Management, and my dear friend, Dr. Bhavsinh, Dodia, sir, for giving me this opportunity. The topic assigned to me is ABC of activity-based costing. Let me give a brief overview of what I am going to deal with in the next 1 hour. Firstly, I would be dealing with history. Then second, traditional costing system. Third, activity-based costing system. Finally, activity-based costing versus traditional costing system. And I would welcome your questions or remarks in the last 5 minutes of the talk. Let me start my talk with an example. Suppose after taking this lecture, we will go for dinner in a hotel and you order for pizza worth rupees 250 and I order Gujarati thali worth rupees 150. So total cost rupees 250 plus 150 becomes 400. You said you will pay. I said let me pay. So finally we decided to divide equally. As we are two person, so 400 divided by 2, that is 200. So you have to pay 200 and I have to pay 200. This is called traditional costing system. This example explains traditional costing system. Now, when you see you have consumed pizza worth rupees 250, but you have to pay only 200, and I have consumed of rupees 150, but I have to pay 200. So this traditional costing system results into overcosting or undercosting of product. As you see that you have consumed 250 rupees, but you have to pay 200, so it is called undercosting. And I have consumed 150, but I have to pay 200, so it is called overcosting. So traditional costing results into overcosting or undercosting of product cost, which is known as cross subsidization of product cost. This is the limitation of traditional costing system. Whereas activity based costing charge cost on product based on its consumption. As we know, with this example, let us start now our topic. As we know, accountancy is the language of business that creates figures and also communicates. Initially, accounting developed with the intention of keeping records of business transaction. Measurement is the basic function of accounting. With increase in resource utilization, business transactions, calculation of result also got assigned to accounting as a function. Later, to record and prepare financial statement, different ancillary branches got evolved. In preparation of financial statement for calculation of cost of goods sold and valuation of inventory, cost accounting emerged. Initially, market was dominated by producer and very few products were available with limited feature. Major portion of cost was direct, while indirect cost was nominal. If you remember the old movies, then you find Ambassador car or Premier Padmini car. So there were only two cars in the market. So it is called limited product with limited features. Major portion at that time, major portion of the cost was direct, while indirect cost was nominal due to limited feature. At that time, the cost of calculating and keeping track on indirect cost was very high as compared to indirect cost. So portion, when you calculate the total cost, out of total cost, majority 90% cost belong to direct cost and a nominal part, that is 10%, goes to indirect cost or less than 10%. So when you want to record this, then keeping track on indirect cost, that cost is high as compared to indirect cost. So at that time, that was the reason why traditionally cost accounting was concerned only with ascertainment of cost by identifying three prime cost elements, that is direct material, direct labor and direct expense. Cost accounting concept advanced further with the beginning of the First World War. The cost plus concept was introduced during the wartime in order to avoid delay in executing urgent supplies. Recession after World War, recession that followed the end of World War I dramatically revealed the shortcoming of the industrial enterprises. So after World War, there was a recession and many of the firms went into bankruptcy, insolvency, and few of the firms survived. Now surviving firms developed cost accounting systems to determine cost for all phases of their operation. So they have started calculating the cost. In the first half of the 20th century, industrialization increased hopes and expectation of consumers lead to expansion of market. Before World War II, markets were producer driven. With half the wealth and industrial production of the world, America emerged as the new economic powerhouse. In the American age, the newfound focus was on industrialization, mass production, and high productivity. Non-manufacturing costs, that is overhead, increased during Second World War due to emergence of multi-product producing firms with heavy machinization on large scale production. There was greater emphasis on production as consumer was almost unaware of cost of production. So industry, the main focus was on produce to produce more and more. So at that time, the equation was total cost plus profit is equal to price. So what is price? Price means total cost plus profit. What is total cost? All the cost, that is direct as well as indirect cost, charged using traditional costing system. Now question may arise in your mind, what is traditional costing system? This is called traditional costing system. We charge whole cost and add profit margin and decide the price. As market was driven by producer, customer were compelled to pay the amount full cost and take the price with limited feature. Now, coming to traditional costing system. Now, as we know that there are three elements of cost: material, labor, and expenses. This element we further divided into in relation to cost center, direct cost and indirect cost. So we can divide material into direct material, indirect material, labor into direct labor, indirect labor, expense into direct expense, indirect expense. All the direct, that is direct material, direct labor, direct expense, jointly known as prime cost. And all the indirect costs, that is indirect material, indirect labor, indirect expense, jointly known as overheads. So once you collect the overheads from the records, you classify the cost from the records, direct, indirect. Now that indirect again charged to various departments. So there are different types of department in the factory: production department and service department. So we assign or we charge this overhead to various departments. This is called primary distribution. This is called primary distribution that you have studied in your SY overhead chapter. Primary distribution. So when we make primary distribution, when the cost is wholly incurred for a particular department or particular center, then it is directly charged on that center. It is called allocation. It is called allocation. The process of charging whole amount of cost to a cost center, the process of charging whole amount of cost to a cost center is called as allocation. But when common cost is incurred, that common cost is charged to different department on suitable basis. It is called apportionment of overhead. For example, factory rent or rent of a building. Now in that building there are different departments in the factory. So what we do, we measure the square area, square foot, square meter, and on that basis that rent is charged to all the departments. So this is called common cost to charge to various department on suitable basis. It is called that apportionment of overhead. So either there is an allocation when whole amount is charged, or there is a apportionment. So after making allocation and apportionment, when you make allocation and apportionment, it is called primary distribution. It is called primary distribution. Now after making primary distribution, costs are there in all the department, production department as well as in service department. But we know that service departments are not producing product, they provide services to other department. So cost of service department again reallocated, and that is called as secondary distribution. So when we make secondary distribution by using different methods, then the whole amount of cost from service department charged to production department. Now Production department. What is the work of production department? Production department produce the product. So cost from production department charge to product. The process of charging cost from production department to product is known as absorption of overhead. So I have introduced here primary distribution, secondary distribution. When we make secondary distribution, service department cost is nil and the entire cost charged to production department. Now production department produce the product. So cost from production department charged to product by taking the base, and that is called as absorption. What is absorption? Overhead divided by base. This formula is followed. Overhead divided by base. Now which base is selected? Base may be number of unit. Base may be hour rate method. Hour rate, that is machine hour or labor hour, or base may be cost. Now, if in your company you are producing identical product and you can easily identify the units, then you take single product is produced, then you can take number of unit as a base. But suppose in your factory is machine intensive, you are using more machines and it is possible to record machine hour, so we take machine hour as a base. And if our factory is labor intensive and it is possible to record the labor hour, so we take labor hour as a base. And if in our product direct material cost is dominant, then we take direct material cost as a base. If in product labor cost is dominant, then we take direct labor cost as a base. Or if both are dominant, then we can take prime cost as a base. So when you take cost as a base, it is multiplied with 100. So it is called percentage method. So overheads are absorbed either using unit method or hour rate method or percentage method. When you charge this overhead to the product after making absorption, so direct cost is directly charged and you charge the overhead by absorption. So direct cost and overheads are charged absorbed and the total cost is calculated. This is called traditional costing system. This is called traditional costing system. In case of multi-product environment, there are common services, cost center, which are providing services to the various production cost center and other cost center. The cost of service department required to be apportioned in the relevant. Now, the first step is termed as primary distribution. Second step is secondary distribution. And the third one is absorption of overhead. Now, when you absorb the overhead, the basic purpose of overhead absorption is to absorb total overhead in products or job manufactured. This method of charging overhead is known as traditional costing system of charging overhead, or it is also called conventional costing system. Conventional, traditional costing system. These are based on two-stage procedure. Under the two-stage allocation procedure, direct costs are traced to product, overhead costs are allocated to cost center and then production outputs. And in the second stage, traditional costing system allocates the overhead cost from cost center to product using volume based cost driver. Volume based, so it is also called traditional costing, conventional costing, or volume based costing method. It may be charged on the basis of labor hour rate, machine hour rate, number of unit, or percentage measure. This is because of conventional costing system fails to provide information on the basis of arbitrary base. As we are using arbitrary base, जैसे मैंने आपको example दिया था that we both friend went to the hotel and took a lunch and we have divided by 2. So that 2 is arbitrary base. We don't take in account what is the actual consumption and we directly divide by 2. So that is called arbitrary base. So under traditional costing system, base is taken as arbitrary. So it is called average. So it is also called average method. Indirect costs so allocated do not truly reflect the resources consumed and influence the cost. We don't take in account that what are the resources consumed by the product, but we charge arbitrarily. Say for example, 100% of direct wages. So whether you have used 1 hour, 2 hour, nothing worry about this. Directly charge 100% as a direct wages overhead. Now, after World War II, post World War II, witnessed elimination of geographical boundaries and fierce competition, making customer the king of market, who demanded more features with more facility and benefits. So now the market is in the hand of customer. So customer is demanding more feature. You see that nowadays, you see that car manufacturing company, you find different categories of car. One single company producing different category, different segments of car to attract the different customers, and the different customers are having their demand, their specification. Now you give specification, customer is giving specification, and as per the specification of the customer, company is producing product. So when we want to add more and more specification, when more and more facility, overhead will increase. Overhead will increase. So on one hand, more producer, on the other hand, customer was not keen to pay for what he or she has not used or consumed. So customer is aware now. So he is not ready to pay for what he has not used or consumed. He immediately make calculation. So now price is decided by customer. So as customer is the king, he is deciding the price. So now price is decided by customer. So price is there. Price is fixed by customer minus what amount of profit you want. So you decide your profit. So price is decided minus cost minus profit, that is the cost, and that is the cost available to you. So now you have to manage your resources, you have to manage the cost. So cost is equal to, so now equation is different. Total cost is equal to price minus profit. What profit you want to earn? Price तो customer ने decide कर लिया है, आपको कितना profit लेना है आप decide करो. So price minus profit, that is the cost, and we have to manage this cost. Hence there was a compulsion on a producer to manage the cost, and those who are unable to manage the cost were thrown from the markets. In Relevance Lost 1987, Johnson and Kaplan criticized American cost accounting of the post-World War II period, as Americans were using traditional costing system. Early in the century, direct labor, direct material often were 90% of total cost, and allocating overhead based on direct labor was reasonable. Later in the century, direct labor could represent only 10% of the product cost, with 60% representing overhead. Means share of overhead is increased. You see that car, ambassador car, and you compare that ambassador car with any sedan car, you find and features are there and facilities are there. So when we increase the facility, there is increase in the overhead. So now picture has changed. पहले क्या था, या 90% direct cost, only 10% overhead, but now 60 to 70% overhead and only 30 to 40% direct cost. So therefore allocating overhead based on direct labor made a little sense. Due to traditional costing system, American industry was not competitive in the face of lower cost and high quality product from Asia and Europe, and particularly Japanese. Japanese came during this period. Japanese came with target costing. Now you know that what is target costing. Target costing, price is decided by customer. Select your profit, deduct your profit. So there is a cost, and that cost is target cost. So Japanese firm were competitive. They were using target costing, and they were selling the product in the market, world market, at lower cost as compared to America. And because of this reason, American firms went into bankruptcy. Why? Because they were using traditional costing system. Foreign competitors had the ability to dominate US market. There was little or no consideration of total quality control or goal of zero defect. That is, Japanese came with not only target costing, they came out with Six Sigma, means zero defect. So they have invented various methods of ascertaining the cost and production, etc., quality, etc. But American were using traditional costing system. So Johnson called 1950 to 1980s as the dark ages of America, because American companies were using traditional costing approach. The use broad average for charging overhead services is known as cost smoothing or peanut butter costing. It is also called cost smoothing or peanut butter costing. Cost smoothing leads to under costing of certain product or over costing of certain product. This is known as cross subsidization of product cost. जैसे मैंने आपको example दिया. Now, traditional costing was adequate in the bygone years because of two major reasons. Fraction of direct cost is high and overhead is lower. Traditional costing systems were designed decades ago when most companies manufacture narrow range of product. Now range of products have also increased. Now the portion of overhead also increased. Over the last third of the 20th century, there were considerably change in the cost structure of companies caused by new condition of the business environment. Example, we can give car. You can see the car and you can find the difference in the cost and the features also. These change have resulted in higher overhead rates, investment in machinery and service has reduced direct labor cost and simultaneously increased overhead cost. US firms began restructuring, focusing on quality and customer, productivity and cost cutting, and inventing new cost and management accounting procedure. Cooper and Kaplan, professor of Howard University, has found a new method of charging overhead. They have found that yes, this is the problem. Traditional costing used by the Americans. So that is the problem. And to overcome from the problem, they have invented a new method, and that is called activity-based costing. So Cooper and Kaplan of Howard University describe activity-based costing as an innovative answer to the problem created by traditional costing system. Instead of using arbitrary percentage to allocate cost, activity-based costing seeks to identify cause and effect relationship to objectively assign the cost. ABC require new thinking. Activity-based costing system involve different methodology in assignment of overheads. ABC focuses on resource consumption rather than spending. पूरा mindset चेंज हो गया. पहले हम क्या करते थे, सोचते थे स्पेंड कितना किया लिखो. अभी आपका माइंडसेट चेंज हो गया, कितना कंजम्पशन किया. ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ दैट कंजम्पशन यू चार्ज द cost to the product. If your product have not used the resources, then no need to charge. जैसे आपने ATM सर्विस यूज ही नहीं किया है, you see that one person is using 100 time ATM service and one person is not using ATM service, then also in both the case you have to pay same charges. So how it is possible? So you can demand, you can change. So activity based costing focus on resource consumption. The technique of activity based costing involves identification of production का path क्या है, identify the activity that go into making the product, selection of suitable driver, creation of cost pools, calculating overhead, application rate, and assignment of this cost based on application rate. Now, there are certain basic terms. Let me equip you with the basic terms which I am going to use here. Now I have started with activity based costing. So the basic terms are here. Activity. What is activity? Activity means a task. Any task performed with specific objective. Any task performed with specific objective is called activity. Activity means a task performed with specific objective. Example, placing of purchase order. जब आप purchase का order दे रहे हो, so it is called activity. Setting up of machine. When you start a machine, you set the machine, you set the die, etc. After sell services. These are the example of activity. Now, another basic term is cost object. What is cost object? Anything for which you want to calculate cost is called cost object. At present, you are attending my talk and you want to calculate that what is the cost of attending the talk, then this talk is your cost object. Anything for which a separate measurement of cost is required, it is called cost object. So cost object may be product, service, job, customer, or anything. It may be anything. I repeat, what is activity? Activity means task performed with specific objective. What is cost object? Cost object means anything for which separate measurement of cost is required. It is called cost object. Then cost pool. What is cost pool? Like swimming pool, like cost pool. Swimming pool, it is a pool of water now created for swimming. Now same way, cost pool. What is pool? Cost pool, it is a pool of cost. A cost pool is term used to indicate grouping of cost or grouping of common cost incurred on a particular activity. Now when you want to purchase the material, you give purchase order, you select the supplier, you receive the goods, count it, then you inspect the quality, and then you issue the goods. So entire cost incurred here is grouped in a one, and it is called cost pool. Now Cost driver. What is cost driver? Anything which influence the cost of activity is called cost driver. If आपको पता होगा EOQ आपने पढ़ा होगा, economic order quantity. If I give one order, cost is 50 rupee. If I give two order, then 50 into 2, 100. If I give three order, 50 into 3, 150. If I give four order, 50 into 4, 200. Means when I increase the number of order, cost is increasing. So with increase in number of order, cost is increasing. So this cost, ordering cost, is influenced by number of order. So number of order is cost driver. So what is cost driver? Cost driver means anything which influence the cost of an activity, which drive the cost of activity. कोई भी एक्टिविटी है उसके कॉस्ट को जो ड्राइव करता है उसे हम कहते हैं cost driver. So there are two types of cost driver: resource cost driver and activity cost driver. What is activity cost driver? Suppose we produce two product X, product Y. Now to produce product X, we have given 10 order. To produce product Y, we have given 20 order. I repeat, we are producing two product. So product X and Y are my cost object. Product X and Y my cost object. To produce product X, I have given 10 order. To produce product Y, I have given 20 order. So number of order is my cost driver, is my cost driver. 10 order, X is giving 10 order. X के लिए 10 orders दिए. So it is called activity cost driver. Y के लिए आपने 20 order दिया. This is called activity cost driver. And total order we have given 30. 10 plus 20, that is 30 order. This 30 is called resource cost driver. It is a measure of the quantity of resources consumed by an activity. So activity is purchasing activity. Now how this purchasing activity is influenced? It is influenced by number of order. And what is the number of order given? For product X, 10, product Y, 20, product X, 10. So 10 is activity cost driver of product X, 20 is activity cost driver of product Y, and total 30 is called resource cost driver. So that is what about resource cost driver, activity cost driver. I can give example. Machine setup. Machine setup. So how machine setup is required? So kitni bar production run karna hai? Number of production run is the cost driver. Purchase of material. So how many time you have to give order? So number of order placed. Material handling. So number of parts handled. Inspection. Inspection per item. Quality testing. Number of hours spent on testing the quality. Receiving material. Number of time material is received. Packing, number of packing order received, or store delivery, number of store delivers. We can give the example of cost driver for business function. For production, number of unit, number of setup. For marketing, number of sales personnel, number of sales order. For customer service, like number of service call, number of product service, or hours spent on servicing the products. Now, so that is all about the basics of basic terms used in activity based costing. I think it is clear to you. Okay, now let us move forward. According to Cooper and Kaplan, activity-based costing system calculate the cost of individual activity and assign cost to the cost object, such as product and services on the basis of activity undertaken to produce each product or service. So when we produce product or service, we use various activity. Like I want to produce product X. So product X is my cost object. Now to produce product X, I give order, I set machine, I inspect quality. So these are the activity I am using. So if you use the activity, then only that cost is charged on that product. So the CAM1 glossary of activity based management provide the detailed meaning of activity based costing. Now the steps involved in activity based costing. अगर आपको activity based costing implement करना है अपने organization में, तो कौन से steps आपको follow करने हैं? The first step is identify. I repeat what I have covered. I have covered history, traditional costing, and started with activity based costing and discussed certain basic terms. I repeat, cost, which basic terms I have covered? One, activity. What is activity? Means a task performed with specific objective. Then cost object. What is cost object? Anything for which separate measurement of cost is required. It is called cost object. Cost driver, anything which influence the cost of activity is called cost driver. And cost pool, gathering the common cost of activity is called creating cost pool. Now the steps. The first step is when you want to implement activity based costing in your organization, your first step is identify the different activity within the organization. So which are the activity you are performing in the organization? Activity means a task performed with specific objective. The main focus of activity based costing is on activity. Thus, identifying activity is logical first step in designing an activity-based costing system. Identifying activity means creating blocks for building activity-based costing system. Activities are composed of aggregation of units of works or tasks and are described by verbs associated with tasks. For example, purchasing of material might be identified as a separate activity. This activity consists of the aggregation of many different tasks, such as receiving a purchase request, identifying supplier, preparing purchase order, mailing purchase order, performing follow-up, etc. So all these combine in the purchasing. Activity identification include finding out what is done with the resources committed in the overhead area of organization. Activities are identified by carrying out an activity analysis. Activity analysis include gathering data from existing documents and records and using survey, questionnaire, observation, and ongoing interview with key personnel. So by discussing with all this, you can identify the major activity. So we create a team, ABC project team, and that ABC project team will determine, will ask the question that what work of activity do you do, how much time do you spend performing the activities, what resources are required to perform the activities, which operational data best reflect the performance of the activity, what value does the activity have for the organization, etc. So here you find identify value added activity, non value added activity. If any activity is of no use, then it is treated as a non value added activity. So when you remove non value added activities, automatically your product cost will reduce. On the basis of the importance of cost hierarchy in allocation of overhead, activity can be categorized into four types. Each type of activity behave differently. The four types of activities are unit level activity. What is unit level? When unit is produced, you have to perform the activity. It is called unit level activity. When you produce the when you want to produce the particular product, say for example a pen you want to produce, so you require different material. So for every product you require material, so it is called unit level. To perform particular unit, uh, cost is incurred. मैं आपको example आपका भी दे सकता हूँ. When you take admission, particular admission in your university, so for your admission university is incurring the cost. It is called unit level. Batch level activity, when examination is taken over, exam work is done, or when admission is finalized, you will be provisional admission is finalized. So पूरे बैच का होता है, एग्जाम पूरे बैच का होता है, रिजल्ट पूरे बैच का होता है, एक पर्टिकुलर स्टूडेंट्स का नहीं होता. So this is called batch level activity. When a particular batch is performed, like in production, when you want to produce the product, you have to set the machinery. So machinery is set not only for one unit, it is for a batch. You are producing a batch, and for that batch you are setting the machine. So that is called batch level activity. Product level activity, which means which assume that cost of a product level activity is necessary to support the production of each different type of product. So when you produce different type of products, for that product not for unit, for that product, you are suppose product X, you are producing Y, producing Z, producing. So for product X you are incurring the cost. Therefore this type of activity will be assigned as a product level, maintaining and updating the product specification, spatial testing, tooling for individual product, etc. Then customer sustainable activity, customer sustaining activity, which represents work that enable the company to sell to an individual customer. So when company takes the steps to sell the product to one particular customer, एक customer के लिए कितना activity है, that is called customer sustaining activity. So these are the cost, these are the activities. Then second step, so first step is identify activity. When you identify activity, there are four types of activity you come across: unit level for a particular unit, product level for a particular product, batch level for a particular batch, and for customer sustaining activity. Then second step is, after identifying activity, second step is creation of cost pool relating to overhead to the activity. अभी आपने जो ये activity identify किया है, For that activity, you have to create cost. You have to gather the common cost of the activity, like purchase order. So when you give purchase order, you are performing number of tasks. So order is the activity cost driver. Now last step, you determine activity cost driver rate. How you can calculate activity cost driver rate? Now I said that purchasing is the activity. Now activity cost driver rate. Now pool. Third step, you determine activity cost driver. Now, I said that purchasing is activity. Now, I incur different costs. So, I gather the cost. That is cost pool I created. Now, how this cost is driven? So, you say that, sir, when you give order, your cost will influence. When you give purchase order, your cost will influence. So, number of order influence the cost. So, that is your third step, identifying activity cost driver. So, order is the cost driver. So, that is the third step. Then, the fourth step is calculating activity cost driver rate. How to calculate activity cost driver rate? First step, find out activity, identify activity. Second step, create cost pool. Third step, find out, identify activity cost driver. Now, whatever cost you have gathered in second step, divide by third step driver, resource driver, total quantity of driver. So total cost of activity divide by total resources of resource driver used. So when you divide this, say for example, 1 lakh rupees is the ordering cost for a particular month. And during the month, we have given 10 order for product X and 40 orders for product Y. So we have given total 50 orders. So 1 lakh is the ordering cost, total order 50. So 1 lakh divided by 50. So that is the cost driver rate. That is the cost driver rate. So I calculate the cost driver rate. Now, last step, compute the total cost of product or cost object. तो product का cost calculate करना है, कैसे होगा? So number of activity use, activity consume multiplied by cost driver rate. Now product X has consumed 10 orders. So 10 order multiplied by cost driver rate. Product Y has consumed 40 order. So 40 order multiplied by cost driver rate. So I repeat 5 steps. Step 1, identify activity. Let us example, purchasing is the activity. Now I create cost pool, gather all the costs. Say for example, 1 lakh is the cost. 1 lakh is the cost incurred. Third step, identify driver. Suppose number of orders are the driver. Number 4, find out activity cost driver rate. What is formula? Total cost of an activity divided by cost driver, resource cost driver. तो cost कितना था? 1 lakh. Total order कितना दिया? 10 plus 40, 50 order दिया. तो 1 lakh divided by 50. So 2000. Yeah, 2000 is the cost per activity per order. Now product X के लिए कितना order दिए हैं? We have given 10 orders. So 10 into 2000, 20,000. For product Y, we have given 40 order. 40 into 2000, that is 80,000. So that is how 20,000 is for product X and 80,000 is for product Y. That is the fifth and final step. So direct cost, up to direct cost, traditional costing and activity-based costing are same. These are the method of charging overhead. So how overheads are dealt? So you have to follow 5 steps: identify activity, create cost pool, identify activity driver, then find out activity cost driver rate, and charge the cost to the cost object. How you can charge? Use the formula activity consumed multiplied by cost driver rate. So that is all about basics of activity based costing system. Now, what is the difference between activity based costing and traditional costing system? Traditional costing system क्या सोचता है? There is a difference in thinking. That traditional costing सोच रहा है when we produce product we have to incur the cost. When we produce product we have to incur the cost. That is the thinking in traditional costing. That is the thinking in traditional costing, that when we produce product we have to incur the cost. So product consume the cost, but that is wrong. When you produce product you have to use activity, and when you perform activity you have to incur the cost. That is the thinking. That is the thinking in activity based costing, that when we make production we have to use activity, and that's the activity that create the cost. Or ट्रेडिशनल में क्या था, when you use product, when you want to make production, you have to incur the cost. So that is the basic difference in traditional costing and activity based costing. Traditional costing systems are the answer to the question, how can the organization allocate cost for financial reporting for the department cost control, where ABC is the answer for different set of question. Which are the question asked in ABC? What activities are being performed by the organization? How much does it cost to perform the organization? Why does the organization need the activity? How much of each activity is required by the organization, etc. So when you ask this type of different set of question, you come out with value added activity, non value added activity. You can remove the non value added activity and you can reduce the product cost. Now when you charge the overhead on the basis of product activity consumed, then automatically your product cost will reduce. So ABC differs from traditional costing system in two ways. First, cost pool are identified as activity or cost center rather than cost center. And second, the cost driver are used. ट्रेडिशनल में क्या होता था, एक्टिविटी में क्या है, हर एक एक्टिविटी का डिफरेंट कॉस्ट ड्राइवर है, whereas in traditional costing system single cost driver is used, single rate is used, and that is average rate. So that's the difference. You are using here multiple drivers, multiple rates, and in traditional you are using single driver. So base are different. Yes. Then ABC provides framework for achieving two overhead costing objective of cost pool: homogeneity and cause and effect relationship. When I say homogeneity, means when I create cost pool, I use homogeneity. And second is cause and effect relationship. If you want to use the material for production, you have to purchase, so you have to give order. So that's the relation. So you can directly establish the cause and effect relationship. So that is all about ABC. ABC has put forward as a solution for many of the problems of modern business in competitive environment, such as overhead cost problem. Now there may be question in the audience, mind of the audience or students or participants, that sir, why should we use ABC? ABC हमें क्यों use करना चाहिए? Let me take to you to the benefit and leave it up to you whether to adopt or not, whether it is bad or good, that you have to decide. I leave it to you. Now the first advantage I can say, it gives you accurate and reliable costing. Why? ABC is more accurate and reliable system of ascertaining product cost, as it is based on cause and effect relationship in cost incurrence. So when you incur the cost, you identify cause and effect relationship and then you charge the cost. So it gives you accurate and reliable cost. It is a better pricing decision. It overcomes the problem of undercosting and overcosting. So we can say that it gives you better pricing decision. Realistic approach, distribution of overhead based on activity is an objective and realistic approach, as against this traditional costing of overhead costing use more arbitrary base. वहां पे arbitrary base था, यहाँ पे realistic approach है. Control of cost, yeah, you remove one non value added activity, you based charge cost on the basis of consumption, so you control the cost. Greater cost efficiency, it helps to greater cost efficiency, unnecessary costs are removed. Useful cost driver rate, you use various cost driver rates. So these are the benefits of activity based costing. Now it is up to you whether to accept this method or not. With this, I end my talk. I would like to thank moderators for the talk: Dr. Dinesh Chavda sir, my friend Vinit Varma sir, Dr. Anitaba Gohil, and last but not least, the wonderful audience participants. Now I invite questions from the audience or virtual participants. You can approach me to my email ID. My email ID is kamlesh.vala-afm@msubaroda.ac.in, or feel free to contact. My number is 999-876-9625. Thank you. Thank you, Vinit sir. It is over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Your expertise in activity-based costing would definitely help to our student, and I'm sure if anybody wants to pursue their research work further in this area, they will definitely going to contact you, as you have a huge knowledge and you are a great teacher, as far as I know. because at that time I was next to your class. When I see the rush of student running into your class, and there is a huge demand of your lecture. Thank you very much, sir, for your excellent talk on activity based costing. Sir, you have unfolded many things during this session regarding ABC of ABC. Sir, you have very easily explained the ABC of activity based costing. You have highlighted history of costing, steps, techniques of activity based costing involving identification of production path and activities that goes into the making of a product or service, selection of suitable drivers, creation of cost pool, calculating the activity cost drivers, rate and activity consumed by the cost object. That was a great experience. Sir, you have nicely explained the basic idea of ABC. Cost are grouped according to what drives them to cause them to be incurred. ABC is a method of cost attribution to cost unit on the basis of benefit received from the indirect activities. As far as I know, that is a very recent and very useful method. Sir, you have said that activity based costing puts emphasis on performance of activity and demands that these activities make on the resources of the organization. Thank you very much, KD sir. I would like to express my thanks to Honorable Vice-Chancellor Sir, Dr. Chetan Trivedi Sir, for his valuable motivation behind such activities. Dr. Bhavsinh Dodia Sir, our young and hardworking HOD, Dr. Dinesh Chavda sir, Anitaba Gohil madam for continuous support. I would also like to thank our head of departments of various departments, teachers, AC members, most importantly, our students, viewers, and researchers. Thank you all and have a great time ahead. Jai Hind.
Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.